Now, if you love the look of metallic foiling on your cards and your papercraft projects, but you're not sure how to achieve it because you don't want to go buying these big expensive machines, then these could be the tools for you. Now, these are foil pens, so they're handheld. You only need to plug them into a USB point, so they're really easy and portable to use, but there are quite a few on the market. Now, what I've done is I've gone to my favourite place to shop for my craft supplies, which is, of course, CraftStash, and I have taken 2 sets of hot foil pens. One is less money than the other, and they do have differences. So I thought what we'd do is a comparison today. These are beautiful as gifts, but they're also fantastic for adding metallic accents to your projects, particularly, of course, around the festive period. Now, by purchasing these from CraftStash, of course, I know that I'm going to be getting the best price guarantee, and I'm a VIP member, so I save 10% on these. And you can find details of all of that down below. So what I'm going to do is open them up. I haven't opened them at all yet, so see what's inside each, compare them, compare the foils. We'll get using them, we'll do a little bit of a project with them and see which we prefer and for what reasons. Now, I'm sure the first thing you're going to want to know is the price. So the Papermania one, which does have some foils in it, and it also comes with a selection of 6 other foils as well. This one is $19.99, so it's actually a really great price if you're gifting this to somebody, but a fantastic starter kit, I think. This one comes with, I believe, an additional tip, and it comes with a stand as well. I have to admit the packaging doesn't look quite as fancy as the We Are Memory Keepers ones, but you know what, you get what you pay for, and we'll see how well it actually works when we come to opening it. Now, as I said, this one does look prettier if you were going to gift it, but you also get 3 pens rather than just the one, so you'd expect it to be more money. Now, at full price, this one is $83.99. Bear in mind, again, like I said, if you get your VIP discount, you're going to take 10% off of that and get your double points. But this one is probably more if you're really serious about adding foiling elements to your projects rather than just having a go and seeing what you think. This one comes with a fine, a medium and a bold nib. We'll try those out. We'll have a look at the difference between those as well. And it comes with some foils in here ready, so you don't have to purchase them before you can get started. Something else the We Are Memory Keepers set does come with, if I take the standard tip out, we have got some tape as well. This is low tack tape that's going to help you hold your foils still. The foils, which you couldn't see while the packaging was closed, we've got gold, silver and rose gold there as well. Now, whereas the We Are Memory Keepers set has 3 separate handles or 3 separate tools for the different nibs, we actually have different nibs in here with the Papermania one as well. We've got what looks to be a finer and a bolder one, not as bold as the one in the We Are Memory Keepers one, but definitely bolder than the standard one, which I believe is already inserted into the pen here. Now, I believe this is a tool for removing the nibs that you get with the Papermania one, so you don't have to change your handles, but you do have to change the tips, and if they're hot, you're not going to be wanting to touch them. So I believe if you press that on, you can unscrew the nib and then you can re-screw on the next one. So that does make it quite easy for you. I guess there's less storage with that as well. Now with this one, you've got, I noticed you've got the USB point, but then you've also got an on-off switch here. So I suppose you could have it plugged in all the time, and you have a stand as well. So I've not actually used the stand yet, but I'm guessing it would go something like this. Okay, so we seem to have the same 3 points with each one. Now the only thing I've noticed so far is that actually the rolls of the Papermania foil, they aren't as wide as these ones, so if you want to do a larger area, I guess you'd have to do it in stages or tape the foil together or something like that, but we'll discover that when we get crafting. So far so good. Both look pretty good. Now there are no instructions with the Papermania one, besides a few notes on the side of the box, and it does say something about allowing it to heat up for a few seconds. I'll actually kind of test that out and see how long it actually takes to warm up for you as well. But I did notice there is an instruction leaflet with the We Are Memory Keepers one, and this one actually says it needs 5 minutes to heat up, so bear that in mind if you want to do really quick crafting. So what I'm going to do is take the standard nib from the We Are Memory Keepers set, and I'm going to use the nib that's already in the Papermania one. I'm going to open both of these up, plug them both in, and see how long each one takes to be ready for use. Now both of these have lit up to tell me that they are on. There is a red light, you can just see the glow on the Papermania one, but like I say, you do have your on-off switch here if you want to leave it plugged in but just turn it off. And then with the We Are Memory Keepers one, we have a blue light just at the base of the handle. Now, I don't know whether these are going to be like my iron that I have at home, for example, where the light goes out when it's hot enough. I'm not sure on that, so I'm going to give this a few seconds for the Papermania one, have a test of that, and then I'm going to give it the full 5 minutes that the We Are Memory Keepers asks for and test that that's then hot enough. It's worth noticing that actually one of them, and I couldn't tell you which one because they're both heating up at the same time, one of them smells quite a bit. It's not bad, it's not really pungent, I haven't got to open a window or anything like that, but I do get that smell, and I guess you get that with any sort of metal that's heating up for the first time, so worth being aware of that and knowing that it's hopefully normal. So this has had more than a few seconds. This has probably had about 2 minutes now. So I'm just going to have a go and just make sure that those few seconds that they advertise really are enough. I will do some more projects with you, foiling projects with you in a moment, but I'm just testing this. And then peel that off. Yeah, so that does work. That didn't take too long to heat up. Now, given the same time, which hasn't been the full 5 minutes yet, I will just test a corner of this foil here with the We Are Memory Keepers. Like I say, the lights haven't gone out, so I'm guessing that's not a feature. And that has also foiled beautifully. Okay, so I think both of them, if you give them 2 minutes, they'll be absolutely fine and ready to go. Now, I did mention earlier with the Papermania one that the rolls are actually smaller than the We Are Memory Keepers ones. So if I want to do an area like this, because I'd like to create a card with all of you, and I'd like to just create a nice foiled circle, so I'm going to have to kind of use probably actually 3 strips taped together, but I'm just going to work out whether this is even possible. Now, we've got some low tack tape with the We Are Memory Keepers one, but I'm going to assume that you're not going to be buying both pens, so I'm just going to use my everyday Creative Craft Products low tack tape to hold the foils on this project still. There we go. So I think that's fine. That's held it down onto my paper. There's a lot of glare, I apologize, there's a lot of shine there. So what you want to do with hot foiling, I've used these sorts of pens and foiling a lot in the past. You want to actually put down the silver side, the grey side, or the darker side down onto your paper, and you actually foil onto the gold or whatever the metallic colour is, so you almost put it down so that the metallic is facing upwards. So for this particular card, what I'd like is just a nice gold circle. I'm kind of having to guess a little bit here at where the centre of the card is. I could always trim it down. Now I'm using a metal die because I know the metal will cope fine with the fact that my pen nib is going to be quite hot. Now I'm going to be careful with my fingers, and I'm going to use this circle as a guide, and I'm going to go round the edge onto the foil. So I've got a join there, and I'm just going to foil 2 circles, one on the inside of the die and one on the outside. There we go. So I think I've gone round the die, both the inside and the outside there. So let's now just remove this and see what we've got. Oh, that's actually really pretty. It's subtle. I suppose you could actually use the bolder tip if you wanted a bolder line. There we go. Now I'll put that foil to the side. I won't waste it, but we have got a really nice foiled circle there. So there's a good tip. Now what I would do is I would go in with some ink blending. I'll do this towards the end. I'll probably trim this, as I said, it wasn't quite central. I'd make sure there were some marks on my paper beforehand to make sure I can get that central. Again, I feel like I've wasted some foils, but you can always use those excess pieces anyway. But I think I'll do some ink blending around the outside and create a card with that simply with a stamped element in the middle. Now let's do similar onto a piece of cardstock with the We Are Memory Keepers one and see if we have the same effect. I might actually use the same circle die here just because that's going to be a little bit on the large side to be able to get round both edges. So let's see how this compares. But let's see, the bit I'm most interested in is where I've had to go over the tape there, see whether the heat transferred. So we got a tiny little bit of, see, I have lost a little bit there. So that's not actually transferred, I don't think. Maybe I didn't go quite as slowly there. But it's actually not transferred quite as well as the Papermania one. It's interesting. I don't know whether it's not quite as hot. Maybe I didn't work quite as slowly. This is the Papermania one. This is the We Are Memory Keepers. So very interesting. Now, as I said, I'd like to show you how you can create your own designs without needing to be artistic at all. So I've got a stamp set here. This is actually from one of our Papercraft Society boxes. It's the one that Phil Martin from Sentimentally Yours designed, and we've got this lovely flower here and we've got a butterfly. So I'm going to use those two and use them with both pens. But you might be thinking, well, how do you use a stamp? Well, it's really easy. All we're going to do is actually stamp onto the foil. So if I remove our first stamp, I'm going to put it onto an acrylic block, but you could put it into your stamping platform. Now I'm going to use the center of this foil that I've just used previously because I don't want to waste it. So I'm going to use that. Now I'm going to take a StazOn ink. It's a solvent ink, so it will stick to shiny surfaces. And you probably want to do this in advance rather than doing it when you're right ready to get foiling, because this does take a few moments for the ink to dry. So I'm just going to press my stamp onto my foil there. There we go. So I've now got my image on my foil there, as you can see. And let's remove that. I'm going to do the same with the butterfly onto some of the foil for the Papermania one. Now I must admit, while stamping onto each of those, I felt like the ink stuck a little bit better onto the Papermania foil. There's probably not a lot in it, but I felt like I had to peel the stamp off, which is usually a good sign that all the ink has touched where it needs to. So I'm going to use my low-tack tape. I'm going to reuse the pieces that I used earlier to stick this down. I'm going to pull the foil really taut as well to try to prevent any kind of wrinkling as I'm going along with my hot foil pen. There we go. So I've actually overlapped my flower a little bit, but again, I'll just be really careful. So let me just bring the camera down so that you can see that without the glare. So I'm just going to work my way around this flower, just pressing around the outline, maybe a few bits of the detail, and we'll see what this looks like. There we go. So I think I've gone around that design enough. I'm not sure if you need to leave them to cool. I don't tend to leave it to cool too much, but yeah, let's see. Let's peel this off straight away and see what we've got. Okay, so unusually that one hasn't actually stuck all that well at all. I'm not sure why that is. Just check that this is still on, still heated up. It's obviously had some effect, but I'm not sure why it's not quite worked. Maybe it's the cardstock. Perhaps there's different cardstocks that work better. So I'm going to try the same cardstock with the Papermania one and see what we get there. There, so I feel like I've been round all of the design there and peeling that off. You can definitely see an improvement in the way that the foil has held. Now, because I'm not sure, like I say, if that was me, the pen, the cardstock, I'm going to have another go with the foil quill. So the We Are Memory Keepers one. I'm going to use the same foil. So this is again, the We Are Memory Keepers foil. Now, I'm fortunate I have learned how to do brush lettering. So I'm going to actually use this, but I wondered when I was doing the last piece whether perhaps the angle of the pen makes a big difference. So I'm going to try that out. So I'm going to go maybe a little bit slower, but I'm also going to make sure that the pen is definitely at an upright angle. So again, put that same foil down. I'm doing it on exactly the same piece of cardstock so that you can see the comparison. There we go. So rather than using the edge, I'm going to make sure that I'm definitely using the top. There we go. So I've just written out the word hello. Hopefully you can just about make that out in the foil. Let's see how that's taken. So it's almost as if perhaps the pen is cooling down. I'm not sure quite why there. Let's just do a really slow piece. And let's just do the same with the Papermania pen. So I can already tell that that one is not too different. I'm not convinced with this cardstock, although this one worked absolutely fine. How strange. Okay, I'm not one to be beaten. I'm wondering whether it's the cardstock, so I've switched back to the white cardstock. I have given the quill a couple of minutes to warm up, and I can feel that the silicone, the rubber handle there, whatever that may be, is warm. It's not hot at all, but it's warm. So I'm just going to write a sentiment. I'll write the same word, hello, on here, and we'll just see how it works. Looks like. How very strange. The light's on, but it doesn't seem to be very hot. So because it seems that the foil quill is just cooling down and not really coping very well with having to work constantly, I've left the Papermania one on. It's just been sat there on. I've actually switched to another pen because I'd really like to see this technique working and see whether you actually need to turn the pen off and then maybe on again to reheat. So I've put the bold nib on now. So while we're waiting for that to heat up, I'm going to give it the full 5 minutes that they suggest you need. And I'm actually going to change this. So I will turn the Papermania one off at the switch. I'll take the tool that they suggest you use because of course you don't want to touch the hot nib there. So you place the nib in there and simply unscrew like so. And I guess you then stand this up somewhere so it can cool down. There we go. So that's unscrewed. So that was nice and easy. I'm being careful not to touch that. And then I'm going to take one of the other nibs. Let's go with the bold one again. So like I say, it's not as bold as the We Are Memory Keepers one. The fine one looks extremely fine. This one doesn't look quite as bold. Now I'm guessing while that's the hot one is sitting in the coil, I can just screw the cold one on if I'm careful not to touch the rest of the tip there. Make sure that is on fully. And then I'm going to turn this one back on. I've got my red light. And allow that to just warm up while I test out this one, the bold nib from the We Are Memory Keepers with the gold foil. So I'm going to use, there's a piece of gold foil here. Again, I'm going to stick with the We Are Memory Keepers. There we go. Tape this down with their tape. Not that that makes any difference really. You can use any low-tack tape, but it's in the box, so we will use it. So far it feels that this one is sticking a little better. I'm going the same sort of speed as I did with the medium one. I do wonder whether my power option, so I have a USB bank which we use around the house for charging multiple USB items. Both pens are plugged into there. Maybe that's had an effect. But let's just see how this one looks. Now what I'm going to do is before, or rather than removing that completely, I'm just going to lift the corner up very carefully. That definitely is looking better. Maybe it needs a little bit longer to heat up again. we go. So there is some foiling there, but it's not solid foiling. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the best. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to find myself a different way of plugging in my USB port and see if that makes any difference. Okay, so I've just done a little test and it's actually revealed something quite interesting. So I have run on a piece of silver foil, the same foil, onto some cardstock we know works because it worked at the beginning. I've run the Papermania foil quill or foiling pen. I've run the We Are Memory Keepers standard tip foil quill, and then I've run the bold tip from the We Are Memory Keepers as well. All of them a straight line and a zigzag line. Now, I thought I did this quite slowly, okay, but when I revealed it, I thought, okay, so the one that I thought was actually doing really well was the Papermania one, but it didn't really have any effect. Plus, it's been heating up for quite a long time. The standard one actually wasn't too bad at all this time, but this is the one that I've now plugged into my computer, so it's got a different power source. The bold one is still having a little bit of issue. You can definitely see at the top of the straight line. So the conclusion was, and I did test this, you see this gold circle here, the Papermania pen doesn't like other foils. It certainly doesn't like the We Are Memory Keepers foils, but the great thing is you can buy foils for Papermania which seem to actually be thinner. When you feel them, they're thinner. You can buy them separately. So that's not an issue. And as you can see, I tested the gold and that works absolutely fine with the Papermania foils. Okay, so and it also seems that by plugging this into a decent power source, so where I've got a bank of USB ports that feed off of a plug socket but are spreading the power between a number of different ports or different USBs, doesn't seem to be working quite as well. But when it's got its own individual USB power port as such into my computer, seems to have heated up and kept its heat better. So that's really interesting to find out. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to use the We Are Memory Keepers foil quill, and this is the one that is plugged into my computer, my laptop, so it should be a good heat throughout. I'm going to use that to create a background of card, and then I'm going to use the Papermania one with the smaller foil to create a sentiment, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of inking and we've hopefully got a beautiful card. Now, something I am sure is going to make a big difference is the speed of which I'm foiling. Like I say, perhaps I was going a little bit too fast, so I'm just going to be really careful to slow down this time because I just want this card to work. I don't want any more issues. So I'm going to go extremely slowly for this one. So I'll speed this up, but essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my circle die in the same way as we did at the beginning to create a frame for my sentiment. I'm then going to go around some smaller star dies in the background as well to add some foil detail there, and they are going to act as a resist for my ink blending that I'm going to do in a little while. After that, I'm going to switch to the gold because they say you shouldn't mix metallics, but I don't see why not. I'm going to use the gold foil and the Papermania foil pen to write a sentiment in the middle of my circle. Just to help me hopefully make this one perfect, I'm going to apply a little more pressure to my foiling, which I don't usually have to worry about. But again, I suppose a little more pressure won't hurt as long as I'm not cutting through the foil. And I'm also going to give the foil quill just a couple of minutes rest between doing this circle and doing the stars in the background. And that will hopefully give it time to get back to its full heat. That's definitely much, much better. So now I'm going to, like I say, I'm going to use this piece of foil. I'm going to give my pen a few minutes to kind of regenerate and just reheat. And then I'm going to use this star die and just trace a few stars in the background. So I've actually made another discovery, and that's that the Papermania quill, or it's not a quill, but the Papermania hot foil pen doesn't like pressure. So as I was going around really slowly with lots of pressure with the We Are Memory Keepers one, of course I transferred the same sort of speed and pressure to the Papermania one, and it just kind of almost burnt the foil, so it didn't stick to the card. We've got a little bit on the gold there, but not a lot at all. So I tried it again and onto some white cardstock, and the same thing happened. We've kind of almost got the colour of the backing on there, and I felt like actually I was going too slowly and with too much pressure. So I tried it once more. The same Papermania foil, I went over ever so quickly and ever so lightly. I mean, obviously this is really quite warm now. It's been on for a long time, and I got a much better impression. So there we go. Between the two, if you're not great with applying pressure, maybe the Papermania one actually might be a bit better for you. So there's my finished card with my ink blending around the outside of the lilac panel. I just popped a die cut circle underneath the sentiment so it really popped, so you can see it even more. We've had some successes and we've had some failures in this video. I like to be honest with you, show you everything I possibly can. I think one of the biggest successes though was definitely this butterfly on the purple cardstock. It's absolutely beautiful. That one was of course with the Papermania foil pen, but both of them we managed to get to work. They require different pressures, different heating up times, probably different power sockets as well, or rather different power sources, because the We Are Memory Keepers one definitely seemed to need a good strong power source all the time and time to warm itself up between uses. But you know, it's entirely up to you what you feel is the best for you. Hopefully this has given you a really good comparison of the two. We'll let you make your own mind up, but essentially you can find everything that I've used linked down below, available at CraftStash. And of course, don't forget, if you are shopping at CraftStash, you're going to get the best price guarantee on these items. You're also going to get amazing customer service as well. So hope to see you again soon. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't done already, and keep an eye out for more videos like this.